Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to be joined today with Vince Guzzo. Of course, if you don't know who Vince Guzzo is, I don't know what you've been doing with your life. This is a guy, you might have seen him on Dragon's Den. He is the force behind Guzzo Cinemas. There's so many really cool things about this individual that we're going to get into today. He has taken time from his schedule to chat with us today. Vince, thank you so much for the time. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm great. I mean, it's I'm at work, so I'm amazed. It's amazing time when I'm at work. I'm not hearing the five kids complaining and arguing amongst themselves.
So this is kind of a break for you then.
Yeah. No. I've been in like it was like torture for like 8 to 9 weeks, and I finally had to leave the house. I just like enough. Even if I'm all alone at the office, I'd rather be there.
Okay, fair enough. Now, one of the things that was brought to my attention recently is, of course, we're living in this whole new world, this COVID-19 world where people are being advised to stay at home and what have you, and people are missing being able to go out and go to movie theaters and be able to go out and go to different events. Now, I understand that you are looking at opening up your theaters next month. Is that accurate?
Yeah, June 26th is the date that we were looking for the 19th because we wanted to be open for Saint Jean Baptiste, which is a big holiday here in Quebec. But the 26th will be fine. I mean, we're not gonna push our luck with the health authorities.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I have been asked many times by people because, of course, I cover movies for Ottawa Life magazine and I do reviews and things of that nature. People have asked in terms of um, the long-term effect of COVID-19, of social distancing at movie theaters. What's your interpretation of that?
I think this is going to be a great opportunity to relaunch the whole sexiness behind going to the movies. I gave an example to somebody not too long ago. I said to him, just try and imagine when you find this great place that makes amazing, Chinese food, right? So you're going to go every 2 days, and then you're going to start going every 3 days, then you're going to go once a week, and then it's going to end up to once a month. So right now, what's really happened is because streaming seemed to revive in a different format or in a different image or in a different selling marketing vision, TV, everybody thought streaming was cool. And so truth of the matter is now we've been doing it for 9 weeks, or some of us 11 weeks. I think we're overdosed on streaming. I think nobody wants to see their TV set anymore. Nobody wants to listen to the news because I think we've heard it, the repeated message is always the same. And I think people really want to go out, and there's nothing to make you appreciate something more than when you can't have it, right? So it's 11 weeks. You're forbidden to go to a movie theater. What does everybody want to do? They want to go to the movie theater. Everybody wants to go out. Everybody wants to, what can I say? While everybody's going to use the word, we're going to try and social distance, I think the truth of the matter is people already did that in movie theaters, right? So try and imagine in a normal context, you go to the movies, you're sitting in an auditorium, it's, call it half full, nobody's going to come and sit next to you, right? Everybody would sit 1 or 2 seats away, right? So the mindset of people who go to the movies is a social distancing mindset, right? So we go to the movies, we want to be with people, but we don't want to be too close to them. We want to laugh with them, but we don't want to get to know them, right? So that's now, if you think about it, social distancing is the greatness of going to the movies. You're in the dark, you're with people, you're socializing, but you're not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
On a first date, you don't have to go through the awkward questions because you're 2 hours not talking, watching a movie, right? So all of that convenience that movie theaters bring is coming back. I think that the whole quarantining, the whole confinement will result in us appreciating more going to the movies and all of those social events. So I would suspect that there's going to be a boom in movie theater attendance. You also have to remember, though, that movie theaters are very, dependent on product, right? So, you have a few Avatars and a few Avengers Endgames in a year, and your numbers are through the roof.
No, fair. Now, in regards to once you guys reopen on the 26th, what sort of protocols are you guys looking at? Like, and not necessarily specific to cleaning, because I don't think that was ever an issue, but in terms of, are you going to set it up where you're going to have maybe like a couple of seats together and then some space and then another group of seats together? What sort of things will you have in place for people who might have a little bit of trepidation about coming back to the theater?
So what we're going to do is, first and foremost, we're going to have our staff in visors and not in masks. I think the whole mask idea, while I have these amazing masks, Mr. Sunshine and, Cinema Guzzo and whatever, that are great marketing tools, it's a little awkward when you're going to a place where you want to entertain yourself and you get this feeling that you're going to the emergency room of some hospital, right? So we don't want to do the mask. But the visors, we want to protect our staff. We want to make sure that, we don't want any misunderstanding with clients or whatever. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to have these hand sanitation stations at our theaters that will be right near where the checkpoint is for your ticket, so that the ushers can validate that you are cleaning your hands.
Okay,
When it
wonderful.
comes to the actual theaters, what we're going to do, there's going to be some re-education that will have to happen with customers. And what I mean by that is, we're going to try and explain to customers and get them to understand that to keep our employees safe is also to keep them safe, which means, you're going to have a popcorn, you're going to have your pop, and you're going to be sucking on that straw for about an hour and a half. You don't have to leave it on the floor. You can actually take it and throw it yourself in the garbage can. You're going to pass 4 garbage cans probably before leaving, the theater anyway. So you can, sort of some civil-minded behavior will have to be re-educated in our clients, right? When it comes to the seating capacities, and that was where the expression I used with some media, where I said, look, opening up theaters isn't going to be an issue. Only we're not going to be the police here. It's not like we're not police state in any way, which means, it's going to be difficult for us to determine who lives under the same roof, right? So I don't see myself asking you and your girlfriend, excuse me, can you show me proof of residency that you live under the same roof so you can sit together in the theater, right? So
yeah,
we're assuming people are intelligent enough, and we're going to treat people like they are intelligent, and that they're going to distance themselves from people they don't know. Like I said, it is a natural reaction off the bat, right? I mean, most people, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it happens to me because I do it all the time, right? So I go into a theater and I take off my coat and I put it on the seat next to me. Somebody says, is there somebody sitting there? Yeah. He just went to get popcorn. He's coming back. Nobody's sitting there. It's my coat sitting there. I don't want to sit next to anybody. Stay the hell away from me. Now, this was before COVID-19, so you can imagine that I suspect most people will do that.
yeah.
Now, it's awkward because if I go to the movies and I go with the family, we're 7 people, right? So you're going to have 7 people sitting together. Then you're going to have one empty seat on one side, one empty seat on the other side. Now, we're not going to police that, but I can guarantee you that with a 50% capacity, limiting capacity of a theater to 50%, usually means that you will have enough space. The other thing is, in my theaters and in most, I would say, modern theaters, the leg room that you have, so every aisle is at 48 inches. So that means that when I'm sitting, the person in front of me is 48 inches away. That's over a meter away from me. That's 4 feet. So in all intents and purposes, the theaters were made to be socially distant because it was synonymous of comfort. It was synonymous of, wow, it's better than my living room type of thing, right? And so I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think that where some people will have to get their heads across it is that, they think about, you go into an auditorium, there's 300 people. Well, the largest auditorium that most theaters have is 400 seats. So at 50%, you're at 200 seats. The first few weeks, there isn't one movie out there right now that deserves to have 200 people in an auditorium. I mean, they're all old movies, nothing, right? So we're not going to get this craziness, right? So I would tell you that at a 50% self-imposed limit of selling capacity, I don't think we'll be anywhere close to 30-35%, which will mean that you'll probably be thinking to yourself, geez, how's this guy paying the bills with this empty auditorium? By the time July 17 comes out, that's when Tenet comes out, now we may have a problem. But there's a solution to every problem. And the solution is we have no other movie but Tenet to really play that's really going to drag traffic. So what we're going to do at that time is we're basically going to probably play 50% of our auditoriums per complex with the movie Tenet, which means the 1 o'clock show, 1:15, 1:30,
Yeah.
1:45, 2 o'clock. So every 15 minutes, you're going to have one of these movies starting. So it's going to be easy for us to not only control traffic in our lobby areas, but also control traffic when it comes to when they're leaving the auditorium. And so we can get the full capacity of a movie like Tenet with half of the theaters. And, a lot of people don't realize that the 14th movie we play in a 14th screen complex is really to accommodate diversity of service or product offered. We're not really making money 14 weeks down the line. So it shouldn't be an issue. We are exploring various air diffusion systems and so forth that could help us control, any potential bacteria just floating in the air. The truth of the matter is, COVID-19 isn't, I don't want to get in trouble by saying this, but it isn't really that much different than the flu or any other virus we've had, except for the fact that it seems to be very deadly when it comes to people who have preconditions. So, theaters have never been shut down as massively as they have this time around. Is that a consequence of the severity of COVID-19, or is it just that I think, authorities may have overreacted in some sense? Because I can tell you that during the Spanish flu, theaters were open. During the Hong Kong flu, theaters were open. Sporadically, some of them were closed. But movie theaters have never really been associated to spreading centers in the past. So, like I said, because there's a historic social distancing behavior in people anyway when they go to the theater. The most annoying thing, if you think about it, when you're in a theater, is that somebody comes and sits next to you and you don't know them, right? So you're like, why? Why are you sitting next to me?
Especially if there's other seats that are wide open. It is
exactly,
a little peculiar.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? It's sort of like, it's almost like weird. It's like, what the hell? Like, get out. Like, and so do I have to police that, or are people going to do it by themselves? I mean, they're my theaters, so I'll do it for me. But I think my wife wouldn't let just anybody sit next to her if there's half of the auditorium's empty anyway.
So with a lot of your theaters, is it assigned seating, or is it basically general, like?
No, it's general admission.
General admission. Okay.
Yeah.
So you brought up Tenet, and I want to go back to that because I read an article in the Washington Post the other day, and paraphrasing ever so slightly, but it basically said that the summer movie season really relies on the shoulders of this Christopher Nolan film, in that a lot of films we've seen, like the new James Bond film, the Fast and the Furious, Top Gun, the list goes on and on and on. All of these movies have been pushed towards either the end of 2020 or 2021. Warner Brothers is going full steam ahead with plans to release this on the 17th, with the mentality that a lot of studios are taking, is that if this movie's successful, then we know that we can open up our films as well. But if not, then we're gonna hold back. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but how do you feel about that?
I actually do have a crystal ball.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Okay. So what's your anticipation with this film? Because Christopher Nolan films are usually very successful. And we talked about this briefly when I spoke with you last week, that a lot of times when you hear terms like IMAX or 3D, it's usually a money grab, not by yourself, but by the studios. But when Christopher Nolan releases a film, it is truly a cinematic experience that you need to see in an IMAX type format. So this is the film that, coming into 2021, it's my Avengers Endgame of 2020, if you will. It's my Avengers Endgame of this year. Not that it had the 10 years of emotional capital built up that Avengers Endgame did, but there was no other film on the landscape that was more anticipated, I think, than this film. So I understand that Warner is pushing all of its chips to the center of the table on this film. What are your predictions for it?
Well, look, Christopher Nolan is one of the, I would say, less than a handful of directors like James Cameron, that when they use a format, they literally add that format's advantage to the storytelling process, right? So a lot of people have always said, why is it that some 3D movies make money and some 3D movies don't make money? And I said, well, it's very simple. If you've planned out a 3D movie that means the action is done in a way that the 3D effect is part of the story, right? So the reason why 3D TV doesn't work is because there's nothing 3D-ish about the news. It's like they're just sitting there talking to you. There's no real, right?
Yeah.
There's no real 3D effect, right? So Chris and Jim Cameron are the guys that have always religiously said, if I'm going to use IMAX technology, because I'm actually going to use the cameras and I'm actually going to use and film in IMAX and not film in regular 2D and then put in a 3D effect or put in an IMAX effect, right? So that's the first. So those guys are what we call purists of the art. The other thing they are is they are probably, add Steven Spielberg to that list and George Lucas, probably the most dedicated guys when it comes to exhibition and the theater experience. Now, coincidence wants it that Chris is represented by a guy called Dan Feldman. Dan Feldman used to be at Warner's. Warner's has always been a great partner of the movie theater experience. So I think everybody realized that, hey, this was going to be a horrible year if some people didn't start really believing in we're going to go back to the movies. And Warner Brothers is not, so they're taking a gamble, but the gamble is a calculated gamble because Warner Brothers has got enough experience to know that come July 17, Tenet will probably have the largest opening of any theater or any movie in the history of movies. Why? Because we have no other movies, so we will have no debates on how many screens, right? So many times, well, I can't give you that many screens because the week after I got another movie, the week before I had another one. I'm a little tight, so I'm going to give you 2 screens, 3, maybe 4. Here, you got 50% of complexes that are more than willing to go with this movie. Warner Brothers is also, release a month later, they're releasing Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Right? So I suspect that the only concern everybody had was, will New York City be available to be part of that release on July 17th? Now, a lot of people don't realize that Canada represents about anywhere between 8 and 12% of the domestic gross of a movie in North America. New York State represents alone to itself 12%, right? And California represents 11%. So you can understand that when those markets are so, everybody's a little shaky and everybody's a little nervous. But given the fact that you have Chris Nolan's movie and then the week after you have Mulan, I can guarantee you that Chris will get 110% of the support of exhibition. We will do what we have to do to make sure his movie gets seen and it's done in a safe way. And he'll become a hero once again for us because he'll be the guy that took us out and took, North America out of the dark ages, no movie theaters. Oh my God. And he brought us back into the time of movies. So it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk. And those are the best risks, right? It's the one that the people who don't know the industry feel like it's a huge gamble. But for the people inside, when you do the math, wait up a minute, this is like, it's actually a great move. This is actually almost like an exclusivity deal that you have. This guy's going to make a killing off this.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion on a couple of things. First of all, the whole brimming feud with AMC and Universal. Universal saying that they're moving towards a model of going forward, they're going to release their films theatrically and on a digital platform simultaneously. And then AMC, and then AMC coming out and saying that they're not going to show their films. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's an eternal 5-year debate that we've had with all studios, right? So I would tell you, Sony did the experience, whether it liked it or not, with the movie The Interview, right? And while it wasn't, a blockbuster movie, but what's interesting about that movie is I don't think in the history of movies, I don't think there's a movie that got the awareness that movie got, right? I mean, if you think about it, every newscast in the world reported that supposedly, there was threats from North Korea that if this movie played anywhere, they would bomb the places, God knows. So it became a real eye-catching moment. Like what's going to happen? What is this movie? Everybody wanted to see the movie. Yeah. And the movie literally did absolutely friggin' F all, on streaming, right? I think it did 13 million over the lifespan of the movie. which pretty much, I think, sent a signal to Sony that no matter how much awareness you get, a straight-to-streaming movie is seen as a straight-to-video movie, which means it's not worth seeing. That is the synonymous, that's what straight-to-video stands for.
Yeah, 100%.
Then Disney tried it in Portugal, where they did a day and date with I forget what movie it was. It was an animated movie, and they kept the results to themselves. So let's get something clear about the movie business. God knows we love to toot our horn. If we make money off a deal, the whole world knows about it. We may even add a few zeros at the end to embellish the deal. The minute we're not willing to share data on a deal, chances are the deal wasn't worth it. In other words, there was nothing to brag home about. So Disney did that experiment, and they walked away from the day and date idea. And then obviously everybody's tried to, and so repeatedly we have this dancing tango with the studios. They seem to each take turns in wanting to be the bad boy. In this case here, Universal did something that's very awkward, right? So you'll remember they had Bond Easter weekend, and then the week after they had Trolls 2. They then turned around and felt that it would be unfair to a movie like Bond to release it in the middle of COVID-19 where China wasn't open, whatever. So they moved it to November. Then out of the blue, they did the most awkward thing in the world, where they basically turned around and, moved up Trolls 2 a week earlier, right? And now they released it in streaming. And now they're tooting their horn that it's $100 million, 3-week opening, let's say, but over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So let's factor in a few things. The first thing is 80% of the world was in quarantine and was confined to their home. And all you did was 100 million. And that's all you're going to do too. In other words, it's done. Once your movie's gone to platforms, it's done. It's over. There is no residual life to your movie. Then it was also in the middle of, right? It was a month in. People were not getting used to this. They're sort of like, what's going on? And so everybody tried it. And then everybody realized that, you know what? This wasn't a big deal. If Universal thinks that they're going to use movie theaters to launch their movies and try and violate our 90-day window requirement, they got something else coming, because it's not only AMC that's not going to play them. It's not only Cineworld that's not going to play them. Nobody's going to play them. Truth of the matter is, Universal right now is the bad boy of the distribution business. They're trying to play this game as if they're holier than thou and they can do what they want. They can try it. I mean, they wouldn't be the first guys to try it. And the truth of the matter is, my response to them is always the same one. You find me a platform that would have given Walt Disney $2.8 billion in revenue and then paid out in royalties $1.7 billion. There is no platform that would have done that. And staying home watching TV, that's what that is. So Trolls may have been successful in a way of saying it, but if it's so amazing, why don't they do it? Why didn't they do it with Bond? Why didn't they do it with Fast and the Furious in May? Because the truth of the matter is, it's actually a B movie that was being stuffed down our throat as theater exhibitors. And we said, okay, look, because, because people have to remember, right? Nobody knows you're going to make a bad movie, right? On paper, any movie that gets approved is because somebody thinks it's going to make money. And then once we see the movie and then we test market the movie, say, oh my God, what the hell did we just do? Like, did we make a mistake or what? Right? So it's the problem is that some of those mistakes are really big, and we're there to try and help them. We also know historically that movies will do better in video, DVD, streaming, VOD, whatever, once they have had a 90-day life in theaters. It's a fact. And so basically what some of the studios were trying to say is, look, we screwed up. We made a movie that isn't worth going to theaters. We're going to finagle this whole thing so that it looks like it's a good movie worth to go to movies. And then we're going to get it out on platforms ASAP. But my answer to them has always been the same. So you want to screw up my business model for your mistakes? Well, no. So in other words, think about this. Why is it that all of the $2 billion plus movies have never had this issue, or the $1 billion movies have never had this issue? It's always the bad movies that they want to get out day and date on it, right? And so I'm not there. I mean, as much as we're partners with the studios, I'm not there to cover their mistakes. At the end of the day, some of the mistakes they did were predictable. Some of them were not, but, it happens.
And I agree. I definitely think that the Trolls film was somewhat of an anomaly. To your point, people are home. People are looking for something to show to the kids that might not necessarily be just what's on Disney Plus. It was something new, and there were a lot of families that I've spoken to that ordered it over and over again, because I guess you only had it for a 48-hour span.
That's right.
And to your point, there's a specific reason why you didn't see films like Fast and Furious, like the James Bond film, going right to video. I mean, the numbers that came out for The Hunt and for The Invisible Man, which also went to those platforms, didn't blow the roof off of anything. So
that's right.
So your point's very valid. I want to ask you this. I know that the Academy has made some changes to include streaming films in this year's contention, and basically saying that they don't have to go through the usual time frame in theaters. Do you think that it would be best to just look at potentially canceling the Academy Awards? Do you see, a slew of like Netflix or Amazon Prime films dominating nominations, or do you think it's still too early to tell? Because I mean, realistically, most of the Academy fodder films don't tend to come out until the fall, and assuming everything is successful in the summer, like with movies like Tenet coming out, that doesn't really disrupt a fall release schedule. But do you think?
So what I think that, look, what I understood from the Academy's decision is that it's this year's decision to do that, because they don't expect the availability of screens to be there necessarily for the amount of movies that are going to come out. Mm-hmm. I have expressed to the Academy in the past that if TV movies want an award, they have their own award show. They can go get their award there. If you want the big award, if you want the one that says, I'm a movie actor, I'm a Hollywood cinema movie guy, well, then you should fit that category, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I wouldn't necessarily want to cancel the Academy Awards, but I think the Academy's got to start realizing that if it doesn't want to do the mistake of cheapening its awards, it has to be very selective on who's eligible for it, right? And let's get something, let's talk about, The Irishman for a minute. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know the history behind The Irishman, which is everybody thinks Netflix is amazing. They paid for The Irishman. Yeah, okay, but Netflix didn't do anything. Scorsese developed the project with Paramount. Paramount had a right of first refusal, and they passed because the budget just made no sense. It then went to Warner's, and Warner's passed. And then it went to Universal, and Universal passed. And then it went to Fox, and Fox passed. And so what it really means is that Netflix only subsidized that movie or paid for that movie to get done because it thought it was going to win an Academy Award. He thought they were finally going to become a legitimate a movie outlet or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Truth of the matter is, I think the studios were right in not financing that movie. Mm-hmm. I think while Scorsese is historically a god in the movie business, the truth of the matter is he hasn't made any money in the last 20 years theatrically. Okay. So I used to say, and it's sad for me to say it about Scorsese because I actually like the guy, but, most Hollywood stars, whether it be directors or actors, usually go to Netflix to retire. That's when so in other words, Adam Sandler could no longer get work, theatrically speaking, so he went to Netflix. Mm-hmm. So Netflix is where has-been actors go and retire. So what are you expecting to see? You're not going to get your latest, most outgoing kind of picture. You're going to get these average pictures. Mm-hmm. None of the movies that Netflix has used to try and get involved in the Academy Awards were Netflix induced projects. They were pickups. They, in the business, we call that a pickup. So it was a movie that had been developed somewhere else, probably even produced somewhere else, couldn't sell the picture. Netflix comes along and buys it. Well, that's not a Netflix picture. That's a Netflix pickup. There's no creative genius in picking up a movie. So I don't even think Netflix should be part of the whole process of, I'm a big believer like Steven Spielberg that movies are movies and TV movies are a different thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because being at the Toronto Film Festival for the last few years, I've seen, Netflix has put out films like Roma and Marriage Story and Uncut Gems, Dolomite Is My Name, just to name a few. And there seems to be a certain level of resistance when it comes to the award shows with those films. And to your point, it does seem like you're double dipping because you've got the Emmy Awards, which celebrates television accomplishment, which does have a TV
Yeah,
movie wing in it,
that's
by
right.
the way, and then they're also able to double dip into the Oscars. So, like yourself, I'm somewhat of a purist where I do enjoy the cinematic experience. I do enjoy going to films. It does seem though that we are shifting to a time. I mean, not even pre-COVID, not just because of where we are like right now, but even pre-COVID, we're shifting to a time where there are a lot of people who don't like going to the movie theaters because of having to go and deal with crowds and deal with people on their phones and things of that nature. So I do see the appeal of the streaming platforms, but when we're looking at it at the industry holistically, I do see there from an academy standpoint, an industry standpoint, there does still seem to be a lot of resistance towards something that has Netflix attached to it.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is that there is, I did an experience with my kids during the confinement period, and they wanted to watch, Avengers Endgame again, so we watched it on TV.
Okay.
And then I said to them, tomorrow we're gonna go down the street to the theater right near my house, and we're gonna see it on the big screen. So you gotta remember, right? They watched the same movie in the same 24-hour span, let's say.
I can't imagine somebody watching that movie over and over again.
But and let me tell you that my wife's excitement, who had watched it on TV and said, why did everybody get so excited about this movie? It's so weird. When she saw it in the theaters, it's a different experience, right? So a lot of people need to understand that some of the wealthiest people in the world could afford to have any kind of food they want cooked in their kitchen. Yet they still decide to go out for meals because it's the experience, right? It's you go and, it's you leave your house. It's the whole. Now, granted, I can imagine at minus 40 degrees Celsius, it better be a hell of a good movie or a good meal for you to get out, warm up the car, and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, that is our life, right? You can't be confined from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night between car, office, back home in your car, and then go home and say, confine yourself for another 4 hours of entertainment without any. But, it's also, what's the largest TV screen the average person has? 50 inches?
Yeah, average, I would say about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
50, right? 42, 50 inches. Those are the size, right? So, okay. So our screens are 40 to 50 feet. So it's 12 inches bigger.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make, a joke out of it, but size does matter when it comes to a screen.
Yeah.
And the sound and then watching a comedy by yourself versus watching it with a bunch of people laughing, watching a horror picture with a bunch of people versus by yourself, different experience altogether. And so without necessarily saying that Netflix doesn't have a reason to exist, it does, but it's a TV experience. I always say to people, why do you people assume that he's my competitor? He's actually ABC, NBC, Global, CBC's competitor. He's not my competitor, and we're not at all in the same ballgame.
Yeah. And I guess I'd add to that and say, I've seen, a lot of entertaining things on Netflix and what have you, but using your Avengers Endgame, watching it at home, watching it in the theater example, to me, there's nothing that replicates watching a film in the theater, whether it be something big like Avengers Endgame or something like a Paranormal Activity, or when that twist happened in the first Saw movie and you have all of these people around you gasping at the same time. There's just something very priceless about those types of moments, and those are the types of moments that you only get from the theaters.
You're right.
Um,
And you also have to understand, a lot of people, there's very few directors or producers that can manage doing TV and theater experience content.
yeah.
Jerry Bruckheimer is one of the rare ones, and many people sometimes don't realize that making a successful TV show is a lot easier than making a successful movie. Because in a movie, you have 2 hours to tell me a story. You've got to get me in the first 20 minutes to understand who everybody is and what the basic storyline is going to be. When it comes to a TV series, you got technically 15 episodes of half an hour to an hour long each to tell me a story, and then you can do it over 10 seasons. So you can develop that story, you can build it, you can have these intricate little, twists and turns or whatever. It's a totally different, I always like to say going to the movies is a binge, right? I got this urge, I need a 2-hour binge, and I do it. Watching TV is stability. It's I get my dose, repeatedly week after week, or I do it in one shot over the, like I'm a big fan of Billions. So I either watch the whole season when I realize, oh Christ, I missed the whole season, or every Monday I watch Sunday's episode and I sort of, get my dose of it. Okay. Two different experiences to live.
No, fair. We have a little bit of time left. I wanted to get you to tell me a little bit about your experience with Dragon's Den. How did that come about?
Well, they've been, I vacation often in the Hamptons, and so I get to see all of the LA guys there and whatever. And there was, and most of the people in the Hamptons are usually Americans. So here's some Canadian guy schmoozing with all of the LA guys because of the theaters I own. And so we started talking, and and every once in a while, some people would say, you should have your own show. You're a funny guy. You should have your own show. And so some guys at Sony started to become really persistent about, you should be on a show. You should be on a reality show. And so Dragon's Den came up. There was a discussion. At first, there was maybe the French version of Dragon's Den, and then it ended up being, that they asked me on the English version. What was really funny was, so when they asked me to do the show, I thought about it. I mulled it over, and I says, okay, I'll do it. Says, okay, great. Can you come in for an audition? Says, what do you mean I have to come in for an audition? Well, yeah, you got to come in for an audition. No, but you guys wanted me. I thought it was a done deal if I said yes. And he says, yeah, the only problem is we've seen too many very quirky characters that once you put 16 cameras looking at them, just freeze up and they become like, boom, they just can't, right? So it's easy to be entertaining around a table of 5-6 people. Can you do it when there's 16 cameras looking at you? And I looked like, what do you mean? What do I care about the 16 cameras, right? Like, so I did the audition. It was really funny because, I did the audition and I thought I had a harder time in the audition than I did in the show because the audition was a fake, right? It was sort of like it was a mock pitch. It was a mock den. It was like, but none of these guys are real dragons. These guys are just like ordinary people sitting here pretending to, right? So I had a harder time in the audition because I felt it was more like acting than being myself on the show. But it was fun. I liked it. I mean, I still like it. So we're supposed to be starting filming again in August.
Okay.
And right before school starts, I tried to argue that maybe we should do it a little later so that it was during school starts so I wouldn't have to be home for that, sort of return at school, get my wife to handle it, and I can be, alone in Toronto.
Okay, fair. Now, and also I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about Mr. Sunshine.
He's a nice guy.
I hear he's a nice guy.
No. So Mr. Sunshine comes from 2 nicknames I have. So my lawyers used to call me the Beast in reference to the devil. They were saying like,
Sounds
Vince is
lovely.
like, yeah, it's like he's an animal, like, you know, that type of thing. And so I would tease him all the time. I'd say, what the hell? Why you guys call me the Beast for? I'm the nicest guy in the world. Look, I even wear a flower. You know, I wear a little flower on my blade. Actually, it's right here. Look, right here. The flower's right here. See?
Yeah.
And I go, like, why do you guys say that? And one of them said to me, yeah. You're a genuine Mr. Sunshine. Like, you're like the sun. That's right. I go exactly like the sun. Like, I'm like, you know, yeah. You know what the problem with the sun is, Zen? It's very simple. The sun could be so warm, so nice. You know, when you're cold, you get in the sun, it hits you, you feel those rays. So it even gives you some nice color. But if you stick around the sun too often, you get a sunburn, and that burns, and that hurts, right? And so that's where we said, yeah, okay, I'm like Mr. Sunshine. As long as I'm in a good mood, you just get a nice little tan, you know, a little bit of color. If you piss me off, I'm going to give you a sunburn, and then you're going to remember not to piss me off again. So that's the duality of Mr. Sunshine, I guess.
All right, fair. I would like to take you to close this out. I want to take you into something I like to call rapid fire. This is where I ask you questions that just come to my mind, and you just answer the first thing that comes to yours. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, the first question in rapid fire for me is always, and this is going to be fun given what you do. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Probably Gladiator.
Okay.
Because of the revenge part of the whole thing, and because of the connection to the family.
Okay. Next question. The Godfather trilogy, of course, is great, but a lot of people don't like Godfather Part 3. In your opinion, Godfather Part 3, a bad movie or misunderstood?
I think it was an actually good movie, misunderstood, and I like the fact that the guy's name was Don Vincenzo, which is my name, by the way.
Yeah.
No connection, but I thought it was fun.
Okay. In the movie, I believe it's Bad Boys 2, we see a scene where somebody's coming to date Martin Lawrence's daughter, and then the young boy gets, you know, ferociously interrogated by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's characters. Have you ever done that to any of your children's dates?
So my youngest child, I have 5 kids. My youngest is a daughter,
Okay.
and I always told the 4 older boys, before that boyfriend or that date comes to me, you make sure he's already beaten up enough that he's just asking to be taken out of misery.
Okay, fair. Next question. Has there ever been a pitch on Dragon's Den that you didn't go for, and then you later, you know, was like, maybe I should have?
That I didn't go for and I should have? No.
Oh, okay.
There are some that I regret not having won, but none. No. If I didn't go in, it's because I really didn't go in. I didn't want to go in. I thought it was crazy ideas.
Okay. Who would you like to play you in the movie?
Which movie?
The movie about you.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't know. A very young Andy Garcia.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, don't say Denzel Washington because he's my pick.
No.
Now, I know you're a football. Actually, I believe you're a football fan.
Yes.
Okay. So, what's your Serie A team?
So, the team that like I said, I'm a big American football, lover, and I like pain. So I'm a big New York Giants fan, and that's how much pain I like. Okay.
Okay.
So I like the Giants. So I'm still suffering with them every once in a while. But I'm gonna stick with the Giants. I really like the Giants. I found a new admiration for the Patriots under Brady.
Okay.
Now he's gone, so I want to see. I'm gonna see. I guess we're gonna find out this year if I'm a Brady fan or if I was a Patriots fan. We'll have a look at how that plays out.
Now, do you like do you like European football, or what we'd call here soccer? Do you follow that?
Yeah, I follow it. I'm not, I was good at it. I was a good football player. I a good soccer player. I was a good rugby player. But I'm okay. So you're gonna ask me who my favorite Serie A team?
Yeah, Serie A or European. I mean, if you wanted to listen, I don't want to influence you in any sort of way, but like if you like Manchester City,
No.
Oh, wow, okay.
No, they're not even in it. No, the team I like when it comes to soccer, probably because we come from the province of Salerno, which is the closest to Naples. I would tell you my team is probably Naples, but once again, I look like a guy who really likes abuse because they're probably as successful as the Giants have been these last few years.
Fair. Now, I've been learning Italian, and I have a favorite Italian word. I want to know, do you have a favorite Italian word?
Yeah, but I don't know. Is this
Do you have a
governed
sorry?
by
Do you have a favorite PG Italian word?
um no.
So
No,
my favorite
PG,
word.
no. There's no
Okay,
favorite PG word. No.
I'm gonna
They're
tell
all
you what.
like R-rated and
Fair.
18 plus.
I'll tell you what mine is, and you can translate it for the people.
Right.
Mine is quindici,
15, which is 15.
the number 15. I don't know why. It's not that 15 is my lucky number. I just like the way
Right.
quindici sounds.
Yeah,
So
it's all right. It's a nice,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now, listen, I got to tell you, I'm going to wrap this up, but I have really enjoyed talking to you as always. You're a wealth of information. It's always great getting your perspective. And as I said to you the last time we chatted, one of the things I really appreciate you was ask you a question, I'm going to get an answer. There's not going to
Yeah.
be any kind of wishy-washiness. So I really appreciate that.
I own a privately held company. Whatever I say doesn't affect my stock price. So I can be brutally honest. I got no executive issues. My board's not gonna give me crap. Actually, I am my board. You know what I mean? You guys, so we're good.
Excellent, excellent. I wish you all the best. I'm
Thank
going to
you.
be very paying close attention to the release schedule coming up in the next few weeks, and of course to see how our beloved Tenet does. Thank you again so much for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Okay?
Thank you. Be good. Thank
Okay,
you.
you as well.